Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, I welcome all of you to this exclusive webinar organized by Dynamic CIO in association with Thales. My name is Mukbil Ahmed. I'm the executive editor at dynamiccio.com and Create Media. First of all, I really wish and hope that all of you are safe and secure. These are indeed very uncertain times, and we're all cognizant of that fact. Now, coming to the topic for today's discussion, it is focused on shifting gears in connected cars cybersecurity. An increasingly greater number of connected cars are hitting the roads, and that number is set to increase exponentially in the years to come. While connected vehicles offer huge opportunities for automakers as well as consumers, there is an urgent need to reconsider what such connected cars mean in terms of consumer privacy and security. The possibility for hackers to get unauthorized access to the car's network and have the capability to tamper with critical systems puts users' physical safety and personal information at risk. Digital vulnerabilities can expose such cars to malicious hackers who are all utilizing modern technology to their advantage. In fact, there has been up to 605% increase in automotive cybersecurity incidents since 2016. Therefore, while there is no doubt that connectivity has the capability to transform, however, it's not without risks. Therefore, connected vehicles not only need reliable connectivity, also a very strong cybersecurity architecture. In this context, new global regulations support efforts to provide connected services that drivers and passengers can trust. In today's interactive session, you will learn how Thales is working closely with global car manufacturers to reduce such security risks. You will also learn how to build a connected car that we can all trust. How do we meet the highest connectivity and cybersecurity standards? And there couldn't have been a better time to discuss all this. And for today's discussions, we have a very knowledgeable and insightful speaker amid us. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our guest speaker from Thales. It is my pleasure to introduce Prasoon Srivastava, Senior Solutions Architect, India and SAARC region, Cloud Protection and Licensing, Thales. Now, to give you a little background about Prasoon joined SafeNet, which is now Thales, in May 2007, and he has been involved in many turnkey projects in the BFSI, government, and the automotive segments in India, such as UPI, RTGS, eSign, UIDAI, Aadhaar. These are all names and acronyms that we are all very familiar with. And he has a very good experience of designing and architecting solutions relevant to these industries, and he has been doing this for the past 13 years. Prasoon heads the solution engineering team of CPL Solutions of Thales for India and SAARC. Now, before I call on Prasoon to start his talk and his presentation, I would like to also point out that we have a dedicated question and answer session at the end. We will definitely take up your questions and queries there, so please keep sending your questions and doubts to us through the chat window or the question window, and we will curate and respond to them in the question and answer session. Over to you, Prasoon.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction. Hi, everyone. A very good afternoon, and thank you for taking the time out for sharing your inputs and feedback about this session. Without further ado, I would like to begin. And will you please let me know if my screen is visible?
Yes, Prasoon. Please carry on. Your screen is perfectly visible.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. So today we are going to spend some time discussing about the various cybersecurity initiatives that we have seen, particularly in the automotive sector. The topic today is about learning a little bit more about what are the current paradigms and why is even cybersecurity a topic of discussion in automotive sector. What's the reason behind it? And what is Thales as an organization doing to address some of the concerns, how we are participating with different OEMs in the automotive sector to alleviate some of these concerns. So before I get into the details or the technical session itself, I would like to introduce my organization a little bit. So Thales is over 81,000 employees strong. It's spread over 68 countries, so we are fairly global. We invest some around 1 billion euros every year annually on self-funded R&D of different technologies that are of interest to us. And in 2020, our sales revenue was somewhere around 17 billion euros. We have different market segments that we provide our technologies and products in. Ground transportation is one which we would be discussing today. Other sectors are space, aerospace, defense, security, and digital identity and security. We have also products that deal with connectivity, big data, and artificial intelligence as well. Digital identity and security is a big arm of Thales that is closely integrated with many different sectors that Thales has a role to play in. We have executed many prestigious projects in India and abroad. In India specifically, we have somewhere around 100 plus use cases of eSIM deployments by MNOs and other OEMs into their in the components that they create. We are involved in the UK e-passport deal and now also India e-passport deal as well. We have joint ventures in India. We have been present in India since 1953. We have joint ventures with Bell, L&T in India. We have exports from India, somewhere around 800 crores worth, and roughly around 1,100 employees in India work for Thales. Now, let me get into the topic of cybersecurity and automation. So today, when we look at some of the current trends, not only in the case of passenger vehicles or personal vehicles, but even in cases of public transport, we are seeing an increased level of interconnectivity or mobility. And the entire industry, it seems, transportation industry seems going through a digital transformation phase and a cloudification phase. So a lot of the traditional things that public transport involve, for example, a small example could be toll tax, signaling, ticketing systems. All of these are being digitized, and because of its digitization, there is an increased infrastructural complexity, and a lot of these digital transformations initiatives use a lot of cloud, so or cloud-based infrastructure. So what is it? What are the current challenges that is facing this initiative, and what is it that solution providers that are providing this sort of digitization capabilities are looking forward to from Thales? So from Thales, what we are able to do is we are able to provide cybersecurity solutions related to compliance and regulatory regimes that are set in every country related to data privacy. We also have solutions that enhance customer experience during these digital interactions that they have in these ecosystems. And of course, with increasing cyber risk and cyber threat from different nations, and because these kind of infrastructures fall under critical infrastructure for any nation, we provide threat intelligence and remediation capabilities specifically related to data in this sector. This is an old report that would probably help set some context to the topic and the relevance to the topic in the current market scenario. So this is a IDC report, a fairly dated one, to be very honest. It was done somewhere in 2020, but the prediction seems very true when we look at how the market has grown over the last 2 years. So what they had said is by 2023, 70% of all vehicles worldwide would be shipped with factory installed or embedded connectivity. So essentially, the prediction is that majority of vehicles that would be manufactured, created out of the country would, or created out of companies would have some sort of connectivity option by 2023. And that is fairly true, even if we look at the India market, which, where you would think that things would go slow and probably, this would not happen in India for at least 3-4 years. But today, if we look at the cars that are coming out, the options that they have, almost all of them have connectivity options available, where there is some sort of data which is being collected from those cars, whether it be location data or behavioral data related to driving, etc., so on and so forth. Of course, the market globally has grown to include a lot of other data types. So financial data. So certain car companies that lease out cars have financial data also embedded within those connected systems, uh, etc., etc. So there's a lot of personal and other sensitive data also included in such services. And all this data essentially gets accumulated or collected on backend systems that run on a variety of infrastructure. So these backend systems run sometimes on cloud platforms. Sometimes they have a distributed computing interface, which includes edge computing devices, which are placed within cars itself. And all of these data gets stored in, mostly traditional data storages like databases, file shares, and big data platforms, where there could be analysis and business intelligence gathered from that data that would result in better production or better sales or better features, whatever. So this is essentially what we are seeing. Now, in this context, there are definitely some security challenges, and this is one of the security challenges from one of those aspects that we have seen, specifically related to ECUs and issuing identities to ECUs. Now, we will get it shortly into detail as to why this is done and what help, or what is the benefit or return on investment that car companies see when they do this. But today, definitely, there is a whole plethora of options available that allow organizations or companies to issue identities to ECU components that get deployed within a car. And certain aspects of that, data integrity, data confidentiality, authentication of those ECUs, etc., become fairly critical in this type of infrastructure. And of course, the individual credentials that gets issued, which is usually in the form of keys and certificates, they have to be managed throughout the whole life cycle for the vehicle. Now, some of the security challenges that we see is obviously because there are multiple players involved in this manufacturing cycle. Sometimes it becomes very, very difficult to manage this life cycle of identities, or even to provision them effectively. Sometimes the provisioning system is not able to scale up to adjust with the different business workflows that involves multiple players, like tier one providers, OEMs, etc., etc. It's fairly hard to hash out that complexity. And when it comes to replacement or repair or whatever of these components, it throws up another mind-boggling challenge of revoking older identities which has been issued, and or rather imprinting the same identities on other new repaired ECUs that are provided on the car. So this kind of deployment throws up a lot of challenges that needs to be tackled, not only at the implementation layer but also at the security layer. So if we look at what we do to provide support to these type of deployments, is that we help automate the entire identity provision or key provision life cycle. What we do is we provide a trusted key management or identity management, you can say, platform that goes ahead and enables an organization to automate a lot of these processes. And at even if there are multiple players involved, like if there is a manufacturing unit that needs to embed these identities at and somebody else's domain, like a specific OEM, we allow car manufacturers to enable that workflow to do that. So uh, right from field deployment scenarios like ECU mounting, maintenance services, remote update of credentials or firmware on ECU, etc. All of these are tackled very smoothly using this type of implementation and platform. Now let's look at why exactly is our car companies looking at this sort of enabled. I mean, what's the end benefit of embedding credentials on ECUs and managing them from a centralized platform? Why not just go the traditional route and not give a connectivity option at all? So part of it is because of market demand, of course, because a lot of these connectivity features are now being demanded and expected from car companies by customers. But there are additional web benefits uh, that is very easily noticeable when it comes to having a more granular control on the device manufacturing process itself. So if you look at this slide in front of you, having identities on ECUs actually allows a company to ensure correct identification, authentication of these units, control of these units right from the manufacturing stage uh, to through to final deployment and even in the maintenance operations. So this gives a very granular control of to car manufacturers to gather information and to control this entire process in whichever way they feel like from a business perspective. So what this flow needs as a backbone is essentially a key management platform that allows all of this to happen, that can handle this diverse credential generation and provisioning requirements, enrollments and access control of different players involved in this workflow. So this is exactly what we do. We provide a secure, trusted way of managing, generating, and maintaining these credentials and issuing them, provisioning them from our platform. So, in essence, this is what how we participate in this particular enablement process. We provide very specific APIs, very secure key generation, storage, import, export related APIs, credential storage, etc., that can be easily integrated with different products or different solutions which are absolutely necessary for this type of operation to happen. For example, PKI deployment, which is able to smartly communicate with different IoT modules, generation and provision of digital identities to different components within ECUs, and also because this type of service usually involves a lot of microservices that run from different modules within a very big platform. It also ensures the authentication of these microservices itself to ensure that only credible application related services are able to talk to each other, and no other unauthorized or unknown service can inject itself within the platform and create a mess out of the scenario. So this is exactly what we do. Uh, there are when it comes to PKI, we have very close partnerships with different PKI vendors out there that provide their solutions for these types of use cases that I was referring to. And in those cases, we enable those PKI vendors to create an infrastructure that is able to address this sort of deployment. So our use case here, or Thales products and services use case here is very um, critical to discover and protect all the data that is generated out of this infrastructure, to manage all the keys and credentials and certificates that are generated out of this infrastructure in a centralized manner, and not only manage them but also allow automation to be had within this infrastructure, so that a lot of these activities like revocation or issuance of identities, etc., becomes highly automated without too much manual intervention. And of course, all these solutions are future proof in the sense they are ready to be deployed on the cloud or on premise or even in a hybrid infrastructure. And some of these technologies are also being used by different car manufacturers for a blockchain related backend that basically delivers the same functionality and end result, but instead of a traditional PKI deployment, they have a they have implemented blockchains in their backend. Now, I will quickly jump into a small case study that would give you a little bit of idea about what we do, how we participate, and what is it exactly that we enable. So we recently did implemented a digital car key project for a large Korean company, and essentially, that company was part of the car connectivity consortium, So they were looking for developing a solution that would allow digital car keys to be provisioned on mobile devices automatically, and those keys to have certain functions and functionalities associated with the car. So we were looped into that project, and we were asked to help in developing some of the uh, uh, management and security related issues that they were facing within the project. And what we were able to do in this situation is come up with a deployment architecture and a solution that we could provide to that company that would help them issue these digital car keys in a very smooth manner without any security concerns. So our trusted key management platform was used in the back end, and with our partner solution that provides signing servers. And with that solution, we were able to enable a secure element provider to issue these types of credentials within their secure elements or software elements, you can say, that they would create within the mobile platform. And with the help of these credentials, users were able to basically communicate seamlessly with the backend that enabled users to interface with the car itself. So this is one of the projects that we did. And then we were also engaged with a large commercial vehicle. This is a commercial vehicle manufacturer based out of Americas. They were, you deploying this entire backend and the platform on the cloud, and they were looking for solutions that same security solutions that they had on their on-premise environment to be available on the cloud, so that they could enable this migration to the cloud. So what we did was we provided them our service through which they could go ahead and enable their EJBCA based PKI environment completely to the cloud. So that helped them basically enable this service that issues and manages identities to work in a very seamless fashion without much concern. Another use case is that of automobile manufacturer based out of Europe. They had similar requirements. They were migrating their infrastructure completely to the cloud, and they wanted to ensure that there was security or controlled security available within the cloud platform because of GDPR rules and etc., which are very much prevalent and strict when it comes to handling personal data present in Europe. This car manufacturer wanted to ensure that their infrastructure, the infrastructure that they were deploying on the cloud, is completely compliant to those regulations, and would not create a business risk later on. So they used some of our security products to make that happen, and to ensure that all the data that they were migrating to the cloud was properly handled. This is a use case that I've just discussed for the Korean company. We have also done it since then for another large automobile manufacturer based in India. And what we have done over there is we have provided our key management solution to enable them to secure and store all these credentials in trusted HSMs, and have their PKI environment completely secure from any external malicious threats. So thank you for your participation up till now. I am just going to go through some of the questions that you have asked in the meantime. And if you have not asked any, I would request you to put forward your questions. I can obviously go into further details if need be on how we do things. So please let me know.
Sure. Thank you, Prasoon. I have already curated the questions, which are there, quite a few of them, which again goes on to show the interest that senior technology guys have in this subject. So the first question that there is from an anonymous user. It says, "We are an automobile part manufacturer. How can
Mhm.
Thales help us?" This is his question.
Okay, so let me answer that. So as you would might have seen or gathered from my presentation, Thales actually enables connectivity. So in connected cars, connected part is definitely Thales's forte. So we have multiple different solutions. We provide embedded SIMs that can be provisioned on automobile parts that are electronic in nature or can be enabled electronically in nature. We also have the ability to provide a module which allows data collection from different sensors which might be present in the car, and then we can secure that data from that edge computing device or edge computing unit or ECU, whatever might choose to call it, back to its central repository and ensure that that data, when it is collected and assimilated, is secured and is not at risk from any malicious actors. And if need be, we have also a business unit that allows car organizations to do some AI based reporting or AI based business intelligence gathering from that collected data. So we do all of this.
Right. The next question is a little fundamental and very basic question, but still very pertinent and relevant to the subject of discussion. The person asks, who owns the data in a connected car? Is it the car owner or the car manufacturer?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and the best answer to get it, best answer that one can possibly get is by looking at a country's data privacy law. So in India, although the data privacy law is not there yet, it is in draft stage, and a lot of us were expecting that to probably be implemented or at least made into a law this year itself. But whatever, for whatever reasons, is delayed. But if you look at that data privacy law, you would understand that while the data owner remains the car consumer themselves, but the car manufacturer or whosoever is collecting the data and centralizing it, processing it, becomes the data custodian. So whatever laws or liabilities are applicable to data custodians will apply in this case to whosoever is handling that data or finally is collecting that data. Does that answer the question?
Kind of. So, the next corollary to that question would be, to my mind, that so what you are saying is essentially that the data custodian will be held responsible if there is a breach.
Absolutely, 100%. That's what the data privacy law states in black and white.
Now, the next question is, which is a little detailed question and which I would want you to respond to, which is, that connected cars need a foolproof ecosystem because there are several vendors and multiple parties involved.
Right.
How do you create that kind of a robust ecosystem?
Mhm. So basically, a lot of whenever there are multiple parties involved, I think what makes the entire process complex is defining the roles and responsibilities of these multiple parties. That is where mostly, at least from our experience, what we have seen is mostly, car manufacturers or organizations falter. They are not able to identify exact roles and responsibilities that these parties are supposed to have, and map them to corresponding controls that they should have in the manufacturing process. So mostly what we do is we engage in a very consultative manner. Different, organizations have different ways of interacting, different different types of controls that they want to employ. A lot of them would want, these device identities to be generated, managed, maintained by the individual part manufacturer itself, and not have to do anything with it. So when you do something like that, you obviously relinquish some of the control that you have on the process. And if a car manufacturer is ready to relinquish that, then that might be a suitable way to approach it. So it's to short answer is it's a consultative process. There is no blueprint itself that you can definitely go to as the best recommended way, because different car manufacturers have different management strategies when it comes to their ancillary units, their OEM manufacturers, part manufacturers, etc. So there's no one fit size fits all. There's nothing like that. What we do is we first understand that, and then we recommend ways in which that can be done.
And moreover, according to my mind, I think that developing an ecosystem which
Mhm.
has several stakeholders is actually a difficult process, but nevertheless, it's an objective that all the interested parties and parties with interests in this process must strive for and to try to develop that.
Correct. Yes, exactly. So finally, I mean, the most successful implementations that we have seen is where these roles and responsibilities has been fixed from before. So the implementations stage itself, in the planning stage or in the project management stage, these roles and responsibilities have been defined, and the corresponding understanding of the controls also in place, and there is a like a business buy-in into that
Right.
plan. And then usually the implementation succeeds, because when it comes to implementation, the solution providers have very definite asks that they can cater to.
Now, coming on to the next question. This question is also interesting. The person asks, do you think that software protocols need to be developed that are resistant, inherently resistant to attacks?
Absolutely. So 100%, there's no I think no one would deny that. Of course, there is a the digital space is highly evolving. In fact, I would say that we are at a transition phase right now. Today, what we are seeing is, at least in the way digitization in growing in untapped areas. For example, 5 years ago, who would have thought of connectivity even being an ask for the automotive sector? I mean, I don't think any digital solution or digital solution vendor or industry out there even have thought of this segment. but within 5 years we have seen this segment grow, and we are talking about 5G now, where this is supposed to grow exponentially, and the data coming out of this ecosystem is supposed to be in gigabytes, petabytes, and whatnot. So with that in mind, I would say yes, there is still a long way to go, a lot of investment to be done by different organizations, including us. And yeah, absolutely. We are seeing that happen even today with blockchain being developed more and more into these use cases, integrated more and more into these use cases. A lot of development happening in that area for sure.
Now, the next question that I have is a little personalized question. The person asks, would you be able to provide an end-to-end solution for PKI? If not, then can Thales help us to coordinate with PKI vendors and other components?
Yeah, so short answer is no, we wouldn't be able to provide end to end, but yes, we can help in coordination with different PKI vendors whom we have participated with and executed such projects which I have showcased. So they have successful projects under their belt in similar use cases, and we can definitely, if you reach out to us, we can definitely make that happen.
Right. So coming to the last question, uh, you have spoken about how, devices are connected and they are communicating. So, and you also spoke about things like AI and machine learning. So, a question that has come is that how do you develop devices that possess, self-learning, healing capabilities, particularly in the context of, really sophisticated cyber attacks or hacks? Do you see a
So
possibility of this happening in the future?
actually, I mean, if we were to take a page from our financial sector, which is pretty much developed in India, I would say that those kind of systems already exist today in that sector. So, today AI and ML is generally used in that aspect where if there are certain characteristics which are detected in an ecosystem which is an outlier and doesn't fall into the typical behavior that you would expect in a certain situation. Those kind of transactions, you would say, or interactions are usually denied or closely monitored or whatever, and corrective actions are taken in case an escalation of that behavior happens. So it comes with a healthy deployment of risk assessment, risk management products, and then which gets transferred onto policy management and restrictions and controls. So that is how it is done typically. But yeah, I mean, I would say while it might sound amazing to think of, when you talk about self-healing ecosystems, you would think that much like a human body, if you cut it, it's supposed to heal and repair itself over a time. Digital ecosystems usually don't work like that, at least not yet. What it is doing today, I guess, is it is understanding that there is a knife nearby that can possibly cut you, or it detects that a knife has touched you, and then takes corrective action to move you away from the knife or not allow the knife to touch you. So that is where we are at right now. But when you're talking about letting the cut happen and repair it automatically, we are not there yet. it's supposed to happen. Yeah.
Right. Wonderful, Prasoon. I think you have been very elaborate and in your responses as well as your presentation. And in the absence of any further questions, I think
Mukul, I think there is few questions in the chat window. I think Nagendra asked us, is there any use case for oil and gas sector? Maybe not
yes,
relevant.
yes. Right. Yes,
Yes,
I understand.
absolutely. So we have executed projects in Slumberger and other oil and gas sector companies in India. So one of the things that we do, although I mean I don't know how related it is, but in one of the industries that we are heavily um, work closely with is smart metering actually. So I mean in India today, all of the mobile towers that you see, uh, they are supposed to run on gensets if there is a loss of power, and that genset has has diesel put into it, and there is a meter that is supposed to be monitoring the level of diesel, wherever it's at a given time, whether it suddenly decreases or increases, and so on and so forth, to ensure that there is no theft or anything malicious happening in that ecosystem. So we partner up with smart manufacturing, um, I'll say meter manufacturing organizations, and make those meters smart so that they have the same connectivity module that I'm talking about, and they are able to collect all this data and send it to the backend, and we can process them and give them useful business intelligence. For other oil and gas companies like BPCL, HPCL, we are different. They are also our customers. We do different things related to data protection, personal data protection, specifically related to Aadhaar. And outside India, globally, we interact with Slumberger and other organizations and help protect their infrastructure, help protect their digital infrastructure.
Great. So I don't think there are any more questions. And with this, I think it's best to call it a wrap. It has been a wonderfully insightful talk. And moreover, the topic is of great interest worldwide. I mean, with the coming of autonomous and connected cars, it is, to my mind, it is one of the most sought after subjects, and a lot has been written and spoken about it, and there is great interest, and it is also very rapidly evolving as even as we speak, in the direction of technological excellence. However, I do feel that there were so many questions. It again goes to show the level of interest and excitement that there is among people, uh, particularly about this subject. So,
Great.
and in case there are any questions or queries that are still there in your mind and you weren't able to articulate it at this occasion, I would request all of you to get in touch with the representatives here, or alternatively, you could also get in touch with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us today. And I would particularly like to utilize this opportunity to thank our partners, Thales, without whose support this webinar would not have been possible. Have a great day ahead, ladies and gentlemen.